please do not confuse asset allocation with asset location. And no, I did not just misspeak there. I will misspeak at times because I'm a human, but not right there. And I'm going to show you exactly what I mean right now. Look at this. So this is someone that we work with. And before they came to me, they had a portfolio. And this is what it looked like. It was 62% equities and 38% fixed income. And the problem here is they didn't have an optimal asset location strategy. So asset allocation is how much do we have in stocks and bonds. Asset location is where do we own those stocks and bonds. So look at this. If I open up their 3 accounts, they have a Roth IRA, a 401k, and a brokerage account, which I call a superhero. So look at this. Their superhero account, when they came to me, was 80% equities and 20% fixed income. Their 401k was 60% equities and 40% fixed income. And the Roth IRA was 50% equities, 50% fixed income. This is not optimal. I'm going to walk you through an example through a real case study today so you can see exactly what you should do for your finances. This is not optimal for the very simple reason here of you want the accounts that are generally going to be the best for you to be growing like crazy. So for this example, this Roth IRA, we probably want this 100% equities, assuming you're comfortable with that volatility, because this is the last account we're going to touch. It's the best account for tax-free growth. The brokerage account here, we probably want way more conservative because this might be the first place that we're going to pull income from in retirement. In the 401k, you probably want that somewhere in the middle here. So what you should do is determine what is the target allocation. Let's assume for this couple, we want 80% equities and 20% fixed income. We might want 100% equities in the Roth. We might want 40 or 50% equities in the brokerage and maybe 70% equities, 30% fixed income in the 401k, just as an example. Once again, I'm going to walk you through a case study so this all makes perfect sense. My name is Taublieb. I'm a certified financial planner and I'm the host of the Early Retirement Podcast. I am the vice president at Root. You can see my shirt right here, and I love what I get to do. We get to help people retire early with confidence. If you're looking for more guidance on investing, on not working forever, on insurance planning, on estate planning, on tax strategy, on specifically health insurance of the insurance planning, you're in the right spot, and I invite you to subscribe for more videos just like this. If you don't think any of those topics sound of any interest, I don't recommend you watch these videos because you will not like me. Now, I love this stuff, not just for the sake of it, but because if you knew you did not have to keep working and you could spend time with family or friends, that's the reason for this. So some people think I'm in love with asset allocation. Look, I'm not in love with it. I like it more than most people because I'm a numbers guy. But the truth is, if we can be smart with the way we plan, you don't have to work as long or as hard, or you can switch roles or have a better life. That's why I love numbers. So we're going to go through an example of person A and person B today. This should be helpful for you. But first, know this. Everything I talk about is for fun, educational, informational purposes only. When we're doing this type of planning, you always want to make sure that you're consulting with a financial advisor, even if it's yourself, a tax preparer, a tax planner, which yes, those are different. I had a podcast on that recently. Estate attorney, agent, health insurance, like make sure you have a team around you to help with all of this. Now, if the first step here is if you don't know if you're doing good asset allocation or asset location, use a software like this. So this is my Early Retirement Academy. This is designed for people that really are a few years out, like that could be 5, 10, 15 years out from retirement, who are going, look, I don't know exactly when I'm going to retire, but I want to see, am I on track? So it's a few $100 for a reason because you don't get any one-on-one guidance, but what you receive is access to the software and you can go play around with the tool to see what is your asset allocation? What is your asset location? It's a course. You can see there's everything in here that you need. Thousands of people are inside of this academy right now, and I love it, getting to help you guys. And you get access to what I'm showing right here. So if you want to go see what's your brokerage versus your 401k versus your Roth, you can go plug all of that in. For the case study, you can see here, here's someone who has $1.6 million, and they have their brokerage account, and a 401k, and a Roth IRA. So this is the tool. Let's walk through the example. So here we go. So most people will have a 60-40 portfolio. That's kind of the gold standard in our industry. Now, I'm not a fan of that. And the reason I'm not a fan of that is it is too cookie cutter. I don't believe in asking people their risk tolerance on a scale of 1 to 10. Because if I ask you today, what's your tolerance? And you say you're a 6, when markets go down and I ask you that same question, you're going to give me a different answer. It's almost like saying, hey, are you in pain? You're like, no, I feel good. And then you punch them and you're like, are you in pain? You're like, yeah. Okay, well, your risk tolerance is different. So the point here is I believe in taking the math and then connecting it to real life. So let's assume, keep it real simple, you want to grow your money to maximize your return. Well, if you're 5 years out from retirement, there's a very good chance you should have 100% equities because you don't need this income. If markets go down, it's not fun, but you're not relying on that income. The only thing you're doing by investing more equities is getting more of a discount so your money can grow even more. The difference is when you're closer to retirement, you need your money to be safer in more short-term investments because what if all your money's fluctuating and you have $1 million and you retire and now you have 700,000 because you were too aggressive too soon? Well, that's why we need enough buffer there. So the example I'm going to show you is a real life case study. Let's do it. Let's assume you have one person, and person A, we're just going to call him John. John has a 60-40 portfolio. Now, John is smart. John's got bonds, and he's got equities, he's got real estate, and just his whole portfolio is diversified. So it's diverse in terms of asset classes, international, small caps, real estate, large caps, value, but it's 60-40 as a whole. 60% equities, 40% fixed income. Now, person B, let's call her John Jr. Just kidding. That would be confusing. We're going to go with Jane. Jane over here, she gets this asset location thing. She sees the value. So Jane is like these real estate investment trusts, these REITs, they have a big tax burden. So maybe I should own those in the accounts that are not taxable, like a 401k or a Roth IRA. She also wants a 60-40. So Jane is the same as John. The only difference is Jane is going, those bonds, don't those pay interest? And wait a second, if I have equities, don't some of those pay dividends? Don't I have to pay taxes on those? Maybe I can move around the types of investments I own so that I'm not taxed as heavily so I can keep more money after taxes. So what I'm going to do now is do a 30-year analysis to just give you a sense. Now, these are all using assumptions, so don't beat me up in the comments. Just kidding. You can if you want to. I ask you to be respectful, but I'm going to use assumptions. Some of you are going to go, you're cherry picking this or that. I'm just coming up with really basic numbers. I use a spreadsheet here. I put it together. I hope it's helpful. Check this out. So there's something called tax drag, D-R-A-G. And what that tax drag is essentially what's the total amount we've been paying in taxes that we don't exactly see because our statement isn't showing us this, but it's happening behind the scenes. It's like you driving a car. What's the real wear and tear on that car? So if you're receiving dividend income, let's assume you do that you get $12,500 for 30 years of dividend income. I'm going to assume, being really conservative, you're in the highest tax bracket. So 20% capital gains plus what's called net investment income tax, which is 3.8. So 23.8%. That's $2,975 of what's called annual tax drag. Now let's take bond income. Let's assume that brought in $8,000 for the year. Well, once again, highest tax bracket. You don't pay capital gains on that. You pay ordinary income. I'm going to assume you're in the highest bracket, so 37%. That's $2,960. Now lastly, I'm going to call this REIT income. That's real estate investment trust, so passive real estate. Let's assume you brought in $4,000 from that. At 37%, that's $7,415 in taxes, annual tax drag. So let's compare those three numbers to the same investor with 60-40 allocation, but is just investing in the right types of accounts. So investor B over here, Jane, she's not going to want to have those dividends get taxed like crazy. So she's going to prioritize qualified dividends, which get taxed at a much lower rate. Those get taxed at 15%. So 5,000 times 15% is $750. Jane is also in California, like me. So she's going to prioritize municipal bonds because municipal bonds are tax-free. So the income that comes from them, this is awesome because you don't pay any taxes. The difference is if you're in a low tax bracket, you're not really getting that much tax savings. So municipal bonds are great for some people if they're using the right account. What you don't want to do is put municipal bonds in a Roth IRA. That is just completely the worst thing you can do because it already has tax-free privilege inside of the Roth. We don't want to pick an investment like a municipal bond, which tends to grow less than other types of investments, just for the sake of it, we want to make sure we're getting a tax benefit for it. And then finally, there's something called strategic tax loss harvesting. And what that is where you're actually going into an account and going, I bought Apple stock for $5. It's now worth $2. I bought Coca-Cola for $5. It's now worth $8. What if we were to do a sale and essentially not pay any taxes on the gains there and go reinvest those funds as we see fit? So looking over 30 years, if you took this same approach, which obviously a lot would change, John, we're going to say started with $500,000, he would have 4.85 million, 4,850,000 over 30 years. And Jane would start with 500,000 but have $6,320,000 because all of that tax drag, the annual tax drag, which totals nearly $20,000 every single year, that I would argue you're just paying in unnecessary taxes, meaning you're not getting any value for it. If you were to just instead own those types of investments in your Roth IRA or in a 401k, you're deferring all of the interest, all of the taxes. You don't have to pay that. Well, that's powerful. And so that's $20,000 every single year that you're not paying, that gets reinvested, that grows even more. And the beauty of compound interest really gets emphasized when you have more money. 200,000 becomes 400, becomes 800, 1.6 versus 100 becoming 200, then 400, then 800. Well, that 800,000 delta right there, that's largely occurring because that's 20,000 fewer dollars you're paying in taxes. So while you're investing your money, you need to make sure your asset location is dialed in. So in this example, the additional $2 million plus, well, that's because you're not paying that annual tax drag. That's a 47.3% improvement because you just invested the right way. Now, this is just one example, and yes, I am cherry picking some numbers here. So what I encourage you to do is go play around with your own figures. Go look right now. It might be an even bigger delta. It might be way smaller, but either way, I hope I'm making you way more money. And guys, I didn't even change your investments. I didn't even shift the risk. Let's assume you're like, Ari, I'm the best investor ever. I know exactly the right investments to have. Great. I just want you to own them in the right account so you don't pay more tax than you need to. I have clients that go, I have all NVIDIA or I have all these real estate investments. I go, great. I just want you to own them in the most intelligent fashion so you don't pay more taxes than you need to. If you're looking for a full service financial planner to help with all aspects, that's what we do. You can go ahead, if you'd prefer, and start, which I recommend for many of you, with the Early Retirement Academy. That's if you can go ahead and that's if you want assistance on healthcare, tax planning, withdrawal strategy, you want to play with that software that I talk about, you can go check that out in the description below. That's it for this one. See you guys next time.